Good evening, race fans, and welcome back to season number 16 of the Attrition Sim Race Campus Oval Series presented by SM Racing Products. Today we are here for round number 10 of the season, course 10 out of 12 for this little 12-week segment, and that makes this 34 out of 36 for the 2024 overall championship. Getting ready to close things down here for the 2024 racing season here with ASRC, and I'll tell you what a season it has been so far. Coming into tonight's event for the overall 2024 championship, Brandon Feeney currently leads the way over Jason Gardner by 330 points for the 2024 overall championship. And for this current season we have going here, just the little 12-week period for these last 12 races of the season, currently it is also Brandon Feeney leading the points over Michael Sparks by just a mere 87. So the points for the current 12-week period for season number 16 are extremely close right now compared to the overall 2024 championship, and all of the drivers in the top 5, maybe that top 6 actually, in the Season 16 Championship are present here in tonight's event. They're going to be throwing it down here, seeing if they can't score some points in these final couple of races for this season. That said, though, drivers are making their way down to the starting grid, so how about we take a look down there and see how things will be lining up here for the Phoenix 125K. Starting on the pole here in the number 85, that is going to be Brian Sabelski, multi-time champion here in the ASRC Oval Series, and a driver that has taken home multiple wins at this particular track. That's definitely going to be a driver we will have to keep our eye on here in tonight's event. Starting back in position number 2, though, that is going to be the Harley-Davidson number 50 of Mark Royce, the driver out of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. He's going to be rolling off position number 2. Back in third, in the Liqui Moly number 38, that is going to be Brandon Feeney, the driver that is leading both the year-long championship and the 12-week championship that we are getting ready to draw to a close. That's going to be the Liqui Moly 38 of Brandon Feeney. Back in fourth, the S part of the SM Racing Products crew, that is going to be Garrett Streets in the SM Racing Products number 15, rolling off position number 4. Back in fifth, that's going to be League Administrator Jason Gardner, rolling it off here in a new paint scheme here this evening, running in a STP entry here tonight in that number 93. And alongside with him, one of the drivers out of Canada back there in the number 4 machine, Daniel Sparks, is actually running an identical STP machine out there. So we're going to have to keep an eye on those two drivers because same paint scheme, same sponsors, just different numbers on those two machines. Back in 7th, that's going to be the 188 K9P entry of Joshua Rudolph, followed by the 42 of Michael Sparks in the Mooselander entry back in 8th. Back in 9th, we have the CZ Robotics 24 of Corey Logan. Then back at the very tail end of the field in the iRacing 09, that is going to be none other than Benjamin Harsty. So that is how things will be shaken off here for tonight's event. Just like that, the pace car rolls off into the safety of pit lane, and we're getting ready to go rolling here for the first time at Phoenix Raceway for 2024. Green flag up in the air. It's going to be side by side going down to turn number 1 between Mark Royce and Brian Sabelski. Sabelski has the preferred line down there in that number 85 machine, but will he be able to hang on to it is the big question. Heading on down into turns 3 and 4, and it's looking good for our race leader. Will he have the momentum to keep it going, though, because that high line does have a little bit of speed through turns 3 and 4. Looks like it's still going to be neck and neck as we come across the line. Maybe a scrape against the wall there for Mark Royce, but he will be scored as the race leader as we complete our first lap of the evening. Sabelski now moving ahead through turns 1 and 2. Not quite able to hold the momentum down there on the bottom. Comes up through the dog leg, almost contact there. And once again, neck and neck through turns 3 and 4 here at this slightly not perfectly oval speedway here. If we pull up the track map, you can see here, not quite an oval here. Turns 1 and 2 a little bit narrower than turns 3 and 4. And of course, this section here being called the dog legs. We have trouble back there. That's Jason Gardner around. Jason getting real loose, having to slam on the brakes there in that number 93, but the caution flag does not come out. We are still green flag racing here. But we are still going to take a quick look back and see what happened to the driver of that number 93 machine. You can see the two nearly identical STP machines nose to tail there. And the car just kind of snaps out from under Jason. Really weird to see it slide out like that. But sure enough, cold tires can be the bane of these drivers' existence. And that is going to bump Jason Gardner back to the last place, a full 7 seconds behind the entire rest of the field here. Up at the front, Brian Sabelski is back up at the front of this one as we have potentially another driver around. That is Michael Sparks that just lost 3 positions coming out of turn number 4. Driver of the Mooselanders number 42 and the second place car right now in Season 16 standings. And see if we can't get a quick replay and see what happened to Sparks there. See if he maybe had a little bit of an incident in the same way that Jason Gardner did, or what all happened there for the driver of the 42. And sure enough, it just snapped out from under him the same way it did for Jason, but a much harder impact for that 42 machine. And we do have reports that he has come down pit lane, so that might be the end of the evening for Michael Sparks. We'll see if that pit crew can't get that car fixed up, but regardless, green flag is still up in the air, and that will be bumping Michael Sparks at least one lap down as he brings it down pit lane here this evening. How about this battle going on for the third position here? Garrett Streets, Brandon Feeney, and Daniel Sparks all duking it out. Garrett Streets in that SM Racing Products machine is another driver that has taken home a championship in the league before. Brandon Feeney looking real good to potentially be taking home the year-long championship in that 38 machine. Currently running with a 330-point cushion over the rest of the field right now. We have gotten reports from Michael Sparks, though. It looks like it's about 30 seconds of mandatory repairs, but about 6 minutes of optional repairs on that car. We're going to have to see how much of those optionals he ends up going for here. Because just because they're optional, sometimes that's a little bit of a stretch of the word. There have been plenty of instances where we've seen drivers with quote-unquote optional repairs end up blowing their motors because they were overheating just from the damage that they elected not to get fixed, even though it was supposedly optional. So I'd imagine we're going to see that 42 machine down on pit lane for the full 6 minutes of repairs, but that won't take him out of tonight's race. Definitely will be bumping him down a couple of spots and potentially putting him a couple laps down here, but not quite out of it. We have definitely seen chaos at the Phoenix Raceway before, so it is entirely possible we might see a couple of cautions, a couple of drivers get actually eliminated from this event, and that would provide plenty of opportunity for Sparks to make some spots here back up at the Phoenix Raceway. And of course, that is a big deal. After all, this driver is running second in the Season 16 Championship, so in these final couple of races, I know he's definitely looking to get as many points as possible. A little bit further up at the field, though, Brian Sabelski continues to lead the way, now up to a half-second lead over Mark Royce. Currently looking at their best lap times around the speedway, a 28.52 for Brian Sabelski, a 28.59 for Mark Royce, 28.78 for Streets, 28.77 for Feeney. So really close times all across the board here between these drivers. But for the time being, Sabelski is slowly but surely pulling away from that number 50 machine here, Mark Royce. Coming into tonight's event, Mark Royce has a couple of wins to his name here in season number, not season 16, but for the overall 2024 Gen 4 Championship. Has 4 wins to his name, got one back at Pocono earlier this year, one at Michigan, a second one at the second Pocono race this year, and then a win back at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. So that number 50 machine is going potentially for win number 5 here for the 2024 championship. He is slowly but surely falling back a little bit from our race leader, though, so we'll have to see how things play out in that regard. Of course, tire wear is going to be a big deal here. This is one of our shorter races, only running 125 kilometers rather than 125 miles here. So a little bit shorter than what we traditionally see some of these drivers do, but that is the length of the road course races we did, and I believe that was also the length of the New Hampshire race that we did earlier this year. So tire wear is definitely still going to be a factor, but pit stops will not be as much as we've seen in some of our longer races here this season. A little bit further back in the field, looks like Daniel Sparks is starting to put some moves down here on the number 38 of Brandon Feeney. Sends it in real deep going on into turns 1 and 2. Not quite able to make a move happen there, but he is definitely hot on the heels of that driver as we have a little bit of trouble. Maybe not. There was a brief flash on the race control board that Mark Royce was involved in an incident, but he's looking A-okay here. He did lose about 3/10 on Sabelski that lap, but I think maybe there might have just been a little bit of netcode or just a little bit of a hiccup there in some capacity. Looking down now at Joshua Rudolph, who's trying to make some moves back on Benjamin Harsty. We have a big wiggle out of Daniel Sparks. He's going to end up nearly down the grass there and way off the pace as Harsty goes around, and Joshua Rudolph up into the high line, up to the outside wall, trying to get around Sparks there as well. Running a new paint scheme here in that 188 machine here tonight, but still sponsored by the K9P Racing Organization up on the roof of that 188. Going into tonight's event, running back in 7th, so still running in the spot where he started here. But we still have a whole lot of racing here to go here tonight. Could be anyone's game here this evening, but for now, Sabelski has pulled up to a 1.8 second lead over the rest of the field here. Currently looking down at the closest battle on the speedway, though, between Benjamin Harsty and Daniel Sparks. Harsty is up +5 positions from where he qualified here tonight. Started back at the tail end of the field. I'm not actually sure if he set down a qualifying time. I don't believe that he did here. But he's definitely got some speed to work with under the hood of that 09 machine. Up to 5th position from starting back in 10th. And looking to try and do some more climbing, but he's fallen back to 1.6 seconds from Brandon Feeney, and Daniel Sparks is all over the tail of that iRacing 09 machine. Already 19 laps in the books, though, and we're not even 10 minutes into tonight's race, so this one definitely going to be going by pretty darn quickly here. Honestly, if these drivers keep it green, they might just be able to do this in right around half an hour. We'll have to see here. Definitely one of our shorter races on the docket, so we'll see what these drivers are able to do in a little bit more of a sprint race compared to what they're used to. Up high, though, Garrett Streets up in the outside wall. He is going to lose a couple spots there. Brandon Feeney going down to the bottom. He gets around that 15 machine. Streets able to get it wound back up, pointed back in the right direction, and still managing to hold on just a little bit to fight off Feeney. It looks like maybe having a little bit of connection issues, but still battling it strong despite that impact in the outside wall. Looks like Feeney might have lifted off a little bit, not wanting to get involved in a scuffle with that 15 machine. Now both drivers running nose to tail here as they cross the line to complete lap number 22. A little bit further back, side by side here for Harsty and Sparks. Joshua Rudolph just behind in that 188. Looking to see who will be the best driver to try and follow through with here as they are side by side coming out of turn number 2. Just waiting for the right opportunity to strike there in that 188 machine. All within about 0.2 of a second of each other here. Rudolph going to scrape the outside wall there just a little bit on corner entry. Then Sparks gets into the back bumper of Harsty. He checks up. Again, a scrape against the outside wall for Joshua Rudolph. So everyone's kind of all over the place here in this battle, trying to not be the driver who brings out the first caution of the evening, should we see one fly. Sparks sending it deep back down into there with the 09 machine. Potentially going to be able to get side by side throughout the corner, but no, he's not. Going to have a bit of a wiggle coming at turn number 4. That is going to lose him about half a second on Harsty, just like that from that one little slip up. Immediately going back down at turn number 2, he closes it down to about 0.4 of a second between the two of them. So he is gaining that ground back up, but just not quite able to get himself set up to put a move on him there. And of course, Rudolph now a full half a second behind Daniel Sparks here as well. So this battle has gotten spread out just a little bit here. It's also looks like about half a second roughly further back between Corey Logan and Jason Gardner. Jason, of course, had that spin in the early goings of tonight's race, trying his best to make some ground back up. Michael Sparks also back out here on the speedway, currently being scored 15 laps down. But like I said, we could see some incidents happen here in tonight's event. As long as they happen outside of 15 laps left to go, it's very possible that we will see Michael Sparks still pick up a couple of positions here. So he's down, but he is definitely not out here tonight in that 42 machine. Sparks slowly but surely starting to catch back up with Joshua Rudolph here. Riding on board with him here, and you can see he's sending it a lot deeper down into the corners. Apparently it just seems like he's making that car stick a little bit better than Harsty is, but we'll see if Harsty is maybe trying to run an alternate pit strategy, maybe save those tires a little bit more than Sparks is. It's just surprising to see Harsty go from 10th to 5th and then just get an anchor attached to the rear of that iRacing machine. Sparks heading down to the bottom of the track, trying to make the move happen here on Benjamin Harsty, and it looks like he's able to get it done. Will we see Harsty strike back in this battle? He crosses down low. Yes, he will. Goes down to the inside, going into turn 3 and 4, but not quite able to get to the bumper of him through that corner. That is going to keep Harsty back in the 6th position now. Still 0.2 of a second between them. It does look like Harsty is pushing a bit here, trying to keep up to Daniel Sparks. And Daniel having a little scrape against the wall there. That's going to allow Harsty to have the opportunity to drop back down to the bottom and make the move. Harsty back up to the 5th position now, and there's Joshua Rudolph coming out of left field, sending it deep into turns 3 and 4. Scraping again up against the outside wall. That's going to lose him back to a full second back from this battle. But I'll tell you what, it was quite the send out of that driver from way back down there. A little bit of a Hail Mary throw. Unfortunately, not quite able to make it stick. You can see him back there now. About a full second behind this battle between Sparks and Harsty. A little bit further back in the field, though, Jason Gardner and Corey Logan duking it back here for the 8th position. Logan just now fell back behind the number 93, drifts a little bit high up through turns 3 and 4, so that will bump them back to the 9th position as Gardner starts to pull away here in this battle. Pull up the track map here, you can sort of see how things have started to spread out around the speedway. Really the closest battle on the track right now is the battle between the 09 and the number 4 of Daniel Sparks. These two drivers have really just been giving it all at each other, and I'm starting to think maybe neither of these drivers really have all that much life left in their tires to keep throwing it at each other right now. And we'll just have to see how things play out in the longer run of tonight's event. But it definitely does seem like it is starting to slow down both for Harsty and Sparks. And Sparks again having a bit of a wobble coming out of turn number 4. That is costing him some ground on that 09 machine. Seems like pretty regularly once he gets to the bumper of that 09 machine, the car just gets a little bit unstable, a little bit upset. And all it takes is one little wobble to lose all of the ground that he makes up. Once again, starting to close it back up here, down to 0.4 of a second between the two of them. And we'll just have to see if he's able to close that ground back up. Last time by, Harsty was a little bit faster. A 29.67 for Harsty, a 29.73 for Daniel Sparks. But now it seems like Harsty is starting to pull away here just a little bit. He's got up to about 0.55 of a second. It seems like the main place where Harsty is losing ground is through turns 3 and 4. Making it up back just a little bit heading through the dogleg and through the straightaways. But Sparks definitely is outdoing Harsty here on cornering speed. He's got it back down to about 0.3 of a second between the two of them. And Harsty going to be the first driver to come down pit lane, it looks like. Curious to see if this is a scheduled stop here for this driver, but he is going to be the first one to come down pit lane here. No one else on the track has elected to come down yet, so I would think this would be a scheduled stop for this driver, but I'm not entirely sure. He didn't get any damage at any point here in tonight's event that I'm aware of. So we'll see here. 15.3 second stop for Harsty, so that is what I would expect a typical pit stop to be for one of these Gen 4 machines. That will bump Harsty to being a lap down here, though, so we'll see how pit cycles end up working out for this driver, see if he can't gain some spots short pitting on the rest of the field. And you can see there on the track map now, things are pretty decently spread out here. Ryan Sabelski still your race leader here tonight. Mark Royce falling back by 5.3 seconds over the rest of the field. Jason Gardner going to be the next driver to come down pit lane. He's going to try his luck short pitting here on the field as well. Of course, had that spin right at the start of the race that didn't bring the caution out, so you might as well gamble on your pit strategy here. See if you can't make some sort of ground up doing an alternate strategy, because obviously it's not really working out for him out here on the speedway. Curious to see if there is any damage on that number 93 machine that needs to actually get fixed up here. Looks like no, only a 14.6 second stop for Gardner, so that will be the fastest pit stop we've seen so far here this evening. Now Mark Royce going to be the next driver to elect to come down here, and it looks like he is not coming by himself. Daniel Sparks also coming down here in that number 4 machine. We'll see what these crews do for Mark Royce, see if they can't top Gardner's pit speed of a 14.6. Coming down into his stall here, of course, second stall here on the track. Daniel Sparks not all that far behind. He's also in his stall in that number 4 STP entry. Royce going to be a 15 flat stop, so a little bit slower than Gardner's. Then it is going to be Daniel Sparks coming out with a 14.4. And now I see Joshua Rudolph being the next driver to come on down to pit lane here. So, Sabelski coming down here as well, so our race leader now making his stop as we are officially halfway through tonight's event. We'll see what these crews are able to do for Joshua Rudolph, and then we'll check in on Sabelski. Looks like it's going to be a 15.3 for Rudolph, a little bit slower than the other drivers we've seen. Not the best stop for that crew. Let's see how it goes for Sabelski. It does look like all these drivers are going 4 tires and fuel here. 15.1 for the driver of the 85. And all these drivers, as they come down pit lane, that will cycle Brandon Feeney around to being your race leader here. Of course, Feeney, current points leader in the overall 2024 championship and here in season number 16 of the Oval Series. So, oh, we have a car off the track, it looks like. That is Daniel Sparks. That is stopped down in the infield. And caution flag is out for the first time here at the Phoenix Raceway tonight. I'll tell you what, though, race fans, looks like the curse is not going to be broken here. This is the 11th time that the ASRC Oval Series has visited this track, and I believe that the visit in Season 10 was the only time that it went caution-free. So let's take a look back here. Let's take a look at what brought out this caution with the number 4 of Daniel Sparks. He had just done his pit stop, and I imagine, yep, pretty much the same sort of snap we saw out of Jason Gardner, but a much harder impact down on the inside wall. And you can see the smoke billowing out of that motor. I think that car might need some STP itself. He is able to get it back up to speed and at least bring it down to pit lane under its own power, so no need for the tow truck, but definitely a lot of damage on that number 4 machine, and that definitely puts a damper on Sparks' plans here for this evening's race. I would take a ride on board here, see that impact firsthand for the driver of the number 4 machine. Honestly, a really unfortunate impact for that number 4. Only a couple of feet past the tire barrier there. That would have definitely cushioned the impact a whole lot more than slamming into that concrete jersey barrier like he did. But you can see it here. Almost makes it to the tire barrier, but no, not quite. Straight into a concrete wall, because why not? No big deal. But that is also 2000, I think 2009 is when this scan of Phoenix Raceway was added to the iRacing.com platform, and we can see how well that worked out for him. So, caution flag still out on the speedway. Looks like we did have a handful of takers down on pit lane under this yellow. Feeney came down under caution. Corey Logan came down under caution here as well. Pretty much all of the drivers that hadn't pitted yet before that yellow flag flew have all come down pit lane. So it's looking like it will cycle Sabelski back around to being your race leader here once we go green again. There are a couple of lap cars here behind the pace car. All of those drivers, in theory, should get waved around here prior to us actually taking the green. It looks like the running order should be Sabelski and Feeney as your front row. Then Corey Logan and Mark Royce for row number 2. Then Garrett Streets and Benjamin Harsty for row 3. Jason Gardner and Joshua Rudolph for row 4. Then Michael Sparks and Daniel Sparks look like they are both on pit lane. No, Michael Sparks is out on the track right now. Daniel Sparks looks like he is not. So that should be our running order once we take the green flag, provided that these drivers get waved around the pace car like they should. But of course, that won't happen until we get the one to go from race control here. And there we go, lights are out on the iRacing.com pace car. All of the drivers that need to be waved around are being waved around the pace car. They will be at the tail end of the field here. It's going to be Feeney and Sabelski leading the field to green. That's going to be Logan and Streets back there for row number 2. Going to be crossing the line onto lap number 49 once we take the green flag. So we are officially halfway through tonight's event. That will leave us with 8 drivers. 7 drivers still on... No, 8 drivers still on the lead lap here. Yep, that is right. So it'll be 8 drivers on the lead lap out of these 10 once we take the green flag here. Of course, a lot of these drivers have taken home wins here at this speedway, though. Of course, Sabelski has taken home wins here. Harsty has taken home wins here. Feeney has also won at this raceway. So lots of drivers to keep your eye on here as we get into the latter half of this race. But the green flag is back up in the air. And it's going to be Feeney leading the field down into turn number 1. Sabelski drifts up the track just a little bit on corner exit. Streets right behind, right on his tail. Falling back slightly off the dogleg as we have a driver off the speedway. That is Corey Logan around. Gets it pointed back up in the right direction. But I'll tell you what, Logan did a drift pretty much the entire way down the back straightaway there, and the caution flag is now out. Trying to look around the track here. I'm not sure if that incident was for Corey or if we had a separate incident here. It does look like the 188 of Joshua Rudolph might also be off the pace here a little bit. That will be caution flag number 2 out here on the speedway. We'll take a moment. We're going to take a look back here at what happened to Corey first, and then we'll see if we can't try and figure out if there was a second incident here or not. Let's take a look down at the CZ Robotics number 24 here. A little bit of a slide through the dog leg. Got it locked down and pretty much drifted the entire way down that back straightaway, but they get the car pointed in the right direction. They start getting back up to speed, and they're good, and they're good, and they're good. And then it's right around here when race control throws the caution flag. So I'm not 100% sure what the deal is. We're taking another look back here. We're going to ride down with Joshua Rudolph and see if he actually had any sort of issue there, or it was just a coincidence that he was slowing down for the yellow. Of course, you see Corey off the track up there. Heads down through turns 3 and 4. Seems to be doing A-okay. Maybe a little bit loose through the corner, but doesn't seem like any issues for the 188, so I guess they were slowing it down for the yellow flag. So I'm just going to assume that the incident for Corey is what brought out the caution here, because I can't find any sort of issue around the track that would have brought out that caution otherwise. But go ahead, we're right on board with the driver of the 24 here. Get an onboard view. All it took was a little bit of lifting off the throttle to upset the balance of the car. Of course, great work keeping it from hitting the inside wall or coming back up on the track and potentially collecting any of these other racers. That definitely will do some damage to the tires of the number 24 machine, but otherwise, no harm, no foul for the CZ Robotics 24. So now that we line things back up here, the running order looks to be more or less the same for the most part here. It's going to be Feeney and Sabelski once again in your front row. Then Streets and Gardner for row number 2. I'll tell you what, an amazing comeback by Jason Gardner after spinning it out in the first 2 laps, getting stuck all the way back at the tail end of the field, almost a full lap down, and now he's back up here running in the 4th position. Then for row number 3 on this restart, it's going to be Logan and Royce. Then row 4, Rudolph and Harsty as your last 2 drivers still on the lead lap. So we'll see if the pace car turns the lights off this time around to get things rolling once again. And sure enough, lights are off on the iRacing.com pace car, so we will be going green next time by. And this will be a single file restart. Of course, if we have back-to-back repeat cautions here without completing a single green flag wrap, we will immediately go to single file. Provided these drivers can get some green flag laps under their belt before the next caution, then they will be moved back to double file restarts. But for this time around, it will be a single file restart for these drivers. So it's going to be Feeney leading the field back to green here, Sabelski and Streets, your top 3 drivers running for this single file restart. Feeney, of course, one of the drivers we listed earlier that has taken home a win at this track before. So definitely one to keep an eye on. But of course, so has Sabelski. So your 2 front runners here have wins to their name at this speedway. Green flag back up in the air once again. Let's see if we can't get things rolling here. Immediately scraping against the outside wall. Streets having trouble on that restart. Streets immediately falling all the way back to 6, just like that. And they are spinning up there. Oh, there was still no caution on the speedway. There we go. Caution flag is now out. Rudolph is around. Logan involved in that. Harsty there as well. Tell you what, race fans, cautions breed cautions, and immediately back into the yellow flag for caution number 3 here for Joshua Rudolph, Corey Logan, and maybe Harsty involved there as well. I'll take a look back to see what quite happened there. Really, everything kind of started going wrong there when Streets had that wheel spin on the restart, immediately fell way back to, looks like the 7th position. Then a little bit of contact there between Corey Logan and Mark Royce. Then comes Harsty into the back of that 188. We're going to let's zoom this thing out. Let's maybe get the top-down view from the blimp camera and slow this thing down so we can get a better view of what all just went down here. Of course, you see Streets up there on the high line, who actually doesn't really get involved in this incident. It mostly starts when Mark Royce in that number 50 Royals Harley Davidson entry, almost said Rolls Royce entry, gets into the rear of the 24. Streets narrowly manages to avoid the 188 of Rudolph, checks up, manages to avoid that, but then gets hit in the rear by Harsty, and that sends Rudolph around, and that's going to be what brings the caution flag out there. We'll take a moment, we'll ride on board with some of these drivers going down into this incident, starting here with Benjamin Harsty. Of course, kind of a difficult situation for everyone involved. Really just not a lot of time to get the car slowed down. And Harsty really didn't even seem to have seen that spin happening from his point of view there. Of course, that's just kind of the name of the game sometimes. You can't always see what's going on up there. Of course, Rudolph gets it slowed down, tries to avoid, and just not quite able to. So that is going to be what brings out caution flag number 3 here. And that also means we will be staying single file for this next restart attempt. Dirt streets down there. Doesn't seem to have a whole lot of damage from that incident at all. Really, none of the drivers look like they have much in the way of damage here. Maybe a little bit of right front damage. A little bit of damage there on the 50 machine as well. Corey, surprisingly, seems to have the least damage despite being pretty directly involved in that spin. Joshua Rudolph also appears to be undamaged. Same with Benjamin Harsty as well. There are a couple of drivers a little bit of damage to the right fronts, but for the most part, everyone does seem to be looking okay here. Lights are out on the iRacing.com pace car, though, so we will be going green flag racing next time by. Going to be 23 to go when we take the green. And once again, going to be Feeney and Sabelski, your two front runners. Then it's going to be Gardner and Streets back there for third and fourth. Mark Royce rounding out the top 5 here on this restart. We'll see if these drivers can keep things going green here. But you never know. Cautions breed cautions. We're going to try this thing again. And of course, I'll take a moment here under the seal as well. Thank you for everyone for tuning in here tonight. Of course, be sure to go check out the SM Racing products page. They put together lots of cool sim racing equipment. Pace car off, though. We're going to try this thing again. Going to be 23 to go once we take the green. And green flag is up in the air once again here at the Phoenix Raceway. Looking around the field, doesn't look like we had any wheel spin issues here. Side by side immediately going down in turn number 1 for Harsty and Rudolph, though. Rudolph sending it in deep, trying to get around that 09 machine, but not quite able to make it work. Around the rest of the field, mostly all single-filed still here for the time being. Rudolph going way up high there, down through turns 3 and 4. That's going to cost him a little bit of time. Off the front, though, Feeney continues to lead the way with 22 laps to go. 0.3 of a second between himself and Feeney. Then it's about another 0.4 between Gardner and Streets. Heading down into turns 3 and 4, you can get a better view of where everyone is. A little bit of a gap from Royce to Logan. Logan kind of leading the way in that second little group back there, but first through fifth all seem to be pretty tightly bunched up here. And in these final 21 laps to go, there's not going to be any more pit stops or anything of that sort. These drivers are just going to be throwing everything that they have left at each other and seeing what sticks. Sabelski now down to about 2, make it 0.1 of a second here as he tries to make the move down there on the inside of Feeney, coming out of turn 3 and 4. Down there on the bottom, has the nose right to the bumper, but not quite able to make it stick down the front straightaway. Down in turn 1 and 2, not quite as good of a passing zone with just how narrow it is down there. Pretty much the main moves we're going to see out of these drivers are going to be through turns 3 and 4. Feeney continuing to lead the way here, managing to keep Sabelski behind him. 20 laps left to go. Going to be 19 across the line right here. This is for all the marbles. Feeney, Sabelski, both drivers with wins at this speedway. Both of them looking to add to the collection. As we have a driver up in the outside wall, that's Garrett Streets. Big impact out there, scraping up against it, losing a couple of spots. Side by side further back for Harsty and Logan there as well. This is the battle for the 6th position between Harsty and Logan. Harsty down on the bottom in the iRacing entry. Logan up top in the CZ Robotics 24. 18 laps left to go. Harsty makes the move down there on the bottom. And Harsty going to clear Logan just like that. Now the next driver in his sight is going to be Garrett Street, who again having a little bit of a scrape against the outside wall there, losing a little bit of ground. He's up in the front. Feeney and Sabelski continue to duke it out here. 0.2 of a second between these two drivers with 17 laps left to go, and we have no, we do not have an issue. Just a little bit of connection issue there for that 15 of Garrett Streets. For a second, looked clear like there might have been an incident. But everyone's still running here on the raceway. And it's still anyone's game here between these two front runners. Feeney and Sabelski neck and neck. We'll see what the lap times look like when they cross the line here. 28.63 for Feeney, 28.56 for Sabelski, 28.79 for Gardner, 28.62 for Mark Royce. So Royce was actually the fastest driver out of these top four last time by, and he's going to be able to make a move on Gardner without all that much difficulty, but he drifts up the track a little bit. Gardner pushes back in, tries to do the crossover, but not quite able to get the traction needed to make that happen. The real question here is, will Feeney and Sabelski hold each other up enough for Royce to make up a full 1 second gap for the race lead? Sabelski starting to close in here on Feeney just a little bit, going a little bit lower on corner entry than Feeney is, but drifts up the track just a little bit on corner exit. Still neck and neck here. Coming across the line that time by 28.66 for Feeney, 28.68 for Sabelski, 28.63 for Royce. Royce continuing to be the fastest car in the top 5 right now. It's just a matter of, can he close the distance in these final 14 laps? Can he put that speed to use here and duke it out with these two front runners? Sabelski is still all over the back of Feeney here with 13 to go, holding it pretty comfortably within 0.2 of a second of our race leader. Both these drivers have led plenty of laps here tonight, and I'm honestly not entirely sure which one is going to pick up the laps led bonus here. I would assume probably Sabelski, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But regardless, these two drivers are not particularly concerned with laps led bonus points here. They are concerned about taking home this race win regardless of what it takes. And the clock is certainly ticking to get it done here. Sabelski now falling back just a little bit to about 0.25 of a second between himself and Feeney, but he closes back up to 0.2 of a second going down through turns 3 and 4. Still hot on the heels of that 38 machine, but still not quite close enough to make it happen. And I'll tell you what, there is certainly a driver back in third that is slowly closing this gap up. That is Mark Royce. Slowly but surely going to, well, actually he's going to get a little bit loose there coming out of turns number 2, so that's going to slow him down just a little bit, but still he is slowly but surely closing the gap on our race leaders here. Both Feeney and Sabelski starting to slow down, and it's not the time to be doing that as we get the double high fives up in the air from Barney the flagman. It's going to be 10 miles to go here at Phoenix Raceway. 10 more miles to crown a victor in the 12th running, no, the 11th running of this speedway. Sabelski sends it in deep there down into turns 3 and 4, but once again, it's not quite able to make it stick. 9 to go here now. And mind you, they're setting 28-second laps, so that's only about 4 more minutes of racing to try and make some sort of move happen. And with every attempt, it seems to be getting just a little bit harder for Feeney as we have a car off the track. Jason Gardner way down in the grass there, but he saves it, gets it rolling again. No caution flag on the speedway here. And still up at the front, Feeney and Sabelski just keep on chugging. Tell you what, Feeney is really hoping and praying we do not get another caution flag here tonight. Now up to about 0.3 of a second between the two of them, so Sabelski is falling back here just a tiny little bit as Mark Royce again scraping up against the outside wall a tiny little bit. That will cost him a little bit of ground. Now getting 7 to go as we cross the line. I don't know if Royce is going to be able to muster up the speed to catch back up. Look at these last lap times, 29.19 for Feeney, 29.15 for Sabelski, 29.22 for Royce. So everyone in your top three has slowed down by about half a second since about 10 laps ago. Just because they are all pushing their tires with literally everything they have left to push with here. 6 to go now here at the Phoenix Raceway. And it's all coming down to Feeney and Sabelski. Will he be able to make the move happen here? He only has so many opportunities to try and make something work here. Coming down through 3 and 4. Once again, big high five up in the air. Going to be 5 to go here at the Phoenix Raceway. 5 more opportunities for Sabelski to try and make a move on that Liqui-Moly 38. 5 more miles to try and get the job done. And it's still neck and neck here, about 0.3 of a second between these two drivers, holding steady at this relatively short track here. Coming across the line, still 0.2 of a second dividing our front runners here. Sabelski's really got to try something in these final couple of laps before he loses the opportunity altogether. Feeney pretty much just holding on, trying to run the line the best he can. Make sure that 85 machine does not get the nose underneath him, because all it will take is one little slip up, and that might be the end of the race right there for that 38 machine. So he just has to keep running his line, keep making sure that that 85 cannot close the distance and try and make a move. 3 to go here, and Sabelski goes a little bit wide coming out of turn number 2 and through the dog leg there, now up to 0.3 of a second. Then real low there at the bottom of the track, going down on the apron just a little bit, trying to do anything to make some ground back up here. 2 to go here at the Phoenix Raceway. It's all going to come down to these final 2 miles. Sabelski sends it in deep down into turns 1 and 2, closes up the gap just a little bit, but will it be enough? Further back to the tail end of the field, Mark Royce, Benjamin Harsty battling it out as well. Harsty trying to get up into a podium spot here. Coming through turns 3 and 4 there, going to be white flag up in the air. 1 more mile here at the Phoenix Raceway to get it done here this evening. One last attempt to make something happen, and it looks like Royce and Harsty are still duking it out here. Sabelski has fallen too far back to try and make a move on Feeney here for the race lead. But we might just see Harsty be able to do something here. No, he will not. He's going to fall back. It's going to be Mark Royce that brings it home back in third. It's going to be Brandon Feeney that takes home the race win here at the Phoenix Raceway. Feeney now going for win number 4 on the year of the 2024 championship. And also looks like that is going to be podium number 19 of the 2024 championship for Brandon Feeney. Feeney burning it down there as he manages to take home another win with the series for this Gen 4 championship. And as he brings the car back around the speedway, heading back down to pit lane, we will be back here in just a moment, race fans, with some words with your top 3 finishers. All right, race fans, welcome back to the Phoenix Raceway. Welcome back to round number 10 of season number 16. Third to final round, both for season 16 and the overall 2024 championship. It's going to be none other than Brandon Feeney taking home another win to his name here this season. Brandon, how are you feeling here tonight?
Man, I'm feeling pretty good. Back-to-back wins now in the series, and struggled the first half of the season, but now it's let everything hang out and try to clinch up.
Yeah, coming into tonight's event, not quite able to run up at the front there for a little bit, but you definitely managed to make something work in the latter half of this race. How are you feeling coming into tonight about your chances of winning?
I knew Phoenix was going to be one of those long-run tracks that if we get some green flag running, that save my tires early, hope for caution kind of halfway, and then yeah, I was basically just saving my tires the first half of the race and hopefully stay out longer and catch the lucky break, and I did.
Fair enough. It definitely seemed to have worked out for you here tonight. If we didn't have those strings of cautions here this evening, do you still think you would have been able to get around Sabelski here this evening?
I think with the one caution we had, I could have done it because we were able to pull out and I was able to pass him on the outside, and we could have put on the same show we did the last few laps there. The single file restarts actually, I think, hurt me because I started over driving in the first couple corners and burned some stuff up. But yeah, well, me and Brian have put on good shows here the last few weeks, and we'll try to keep going the next couple races.
Sure enough, definitely a heck of a run here by the two of y'all tonight. I did mistakenly speak earlier and say this was your 19th podium of the season. No, it's not. That's your 19th podium of the league itself. A little bit different there. But next week, heading over to Rockingham, do you think that's where you could go for podium finish number 20, if not another win?
Rockinham's not one of my better tracks. It's another track like this where it's really aggressive on tires, and I tend to burn my stuff up a little early, but we'll see how it goes. We'll try to. If you're in the podcast booth here, then I usually end up on the podium. So,
Fair enough. Well, we'll certainly have to see what happens here in these final two races of the season. Of course, Rockingham. Then we crown the championship over at Homestead. You think you'll be able to secure that race as well?
we'll see. It's still about trying to clinch that championship more than the race win. So, if I can get the win and not do anything stupid to do it, then that's the goal. But yeah, try to see if we can clinch both championships by the time we have all the drop weeks and stuff like that figured out. But it's gonna be close once all that is calculated.
Fair enough. Certainly been a crazy past 34 weeks, and I'm excited to see what you're able to do in these final couple ones. But of course, before I let you go celebrate another win and start getting ready to try and take home these last couple of ones, the microphone is all yours, Mr. Feeney. Who do you want to thank for making things happen?
I got to thank my real world racing sponsors. I got Scratz Auto Works that's going to be painting my modified coming up here. Liquid Moly, Auto Tire and Safeties. These guys are all signing back on for me driving the modified again next year. And I got to thank you up in the booth for putting on a show for us. So we can go back and watch what dumb things we did sometimes and entertaining the fans.
Good deal. Well, thank you for coming out here tonight. Congratulations on taking home another win, and I look forward to seeing you next week at Rockingham.
All right, see you next week, little buddy.
And finishing back here in position number 2, going to be Mr. Brian Sabelski. Put on a heck of a race here tonight, but just came up a tiny little bit short here at the very end. How are you feeling here tonight?
It's a little frustrating. I mean, cautions fell at really bad times for me, and just never until the end there, like just not just the start stop. I think really kind of hurt. Those single file restarts really hurt a lot too. Is what it is. It's frustrating, but I can't really control it. I can only do what I can do, and Brandon did a really good job defending those last 25 laps. Like, hats off to him. I can't complain about that. He put his car right where he needed to put it just to make sure I couldn't make a move inside. And, hey, it happens. He had a good strategy. It worked out. So I knew it was going to be a one stopper from the get go. So I was just kind of like trying to time it out and hope I get a caution. But hey, it wouldn't be SRC, I guess, if I didn't have a strategy and a caution bit me in the butt.
Do you think?
Always seems to happen.
Yeah. Do you think maybe if there was another 5, 10, maybe 15 laps there, if you would have been able to catch him?
Yeah. Well, I think if it'd gone green the whole way, I definitely would have had that in the bag. I think I had the right strategy and everything, but I don't know. I think I would have been able to keep it close, but I don't know if I would have been able to really get by him there. He was just kind of really able to place his car in the right spots and, make it hard to get by him without running him over. And I didn't want to run him over in the corners. I'd rather finish second and have it be a clean run and, wreck somebody for first or, move somebody out. I guess I wouldn't say wreck, but, move somebody out of the way and screw up their race. That's, that's not fair to them. It's not fair to me. It's not fair to everybody else to have to deal with that. So, like, a couple of times I had some really strong runs going down the corner, and if I really wanted to, if I was feeling like it, I could have moved them, but it didn't really seem worth it. Like, not oh god, it makes it sound like I'm like, oh, he's not worth. No, just it wasn't worth it to throw away whatever advantage the two of us had just to try and get by him. That kind of
Yeah.
deal.
It was definitely pretty close between the two of y'all all the way there. And of course, maybe not quite as many wins as you'd like here this season, but overall, you've still been putting on a very solid performance here in season number 16.
Yeah, I can't complain too much. I don't know how the points are going to shake out yet, but I know I just got to keep trying to drive it here. I got two missed weeks, so that will actually help me for once. Sorry, Brandon. I know it sucks to have those. I'm talking to him right now. I know it sucks to have those drop weeks go down, but man, I know that pain all too well. So, you definitely can. I think he can definitely win the season championship. He's definitely got a really good shot at it. If he keeps running like this.
Well, of course, you got 2 weeks left here, Rockingham and then Homestead. What do you feel like your chances are, though, with those last two tracks?
Pretty good if I can avoid the like I said, if we can avoid like a bunch of cautions that throw all the strategy away, we probably got a good shot at at least get good finishes for both. So I don't know if I can win either of them, but we'll see what we can do. Do the best we can. I would like to have some strong finishes here to run the season out, and preferably would like to win. But you can only do so much, right?
Yeah, for sure. It wouldn't be racing if there wasn't a little bit of randomness, a little bit of chaos in it. But that sometimes is just half the fun of it. Of course, though, I won't keep you here all night. I know y'all got some
Well,
practice
you're
to
fine.
do for
You're fine.
the other races. So for now, the microphone is all yours, Mr. Sabelski. Who you want to thank for making things happen?
Thanks to everyone, all my sponsors, McConey Setup Shop, official setup shop at eNASCAR, uh, SM Racing Products. Obviously they sponsor the league and I have them on my car, so that's awesome. Glad to have them here. ASRC, Jason, everyone for putting everything together. Everyone for coming out tonight. Good to have you, no matter what kind of race you had. Good to have you here tonight. Good to have you competing. Everyone and all. Of course, Aiden, thanks for broadcasting. And hi, everybody on my Twitch channel. Good to see you.
Good deal. Well, thank you for coming out here tonight. Congratulations on another podium to your name, and I look forward to seeing you next week at Rockingham.
Yep, I'll be here. Thank you.
And finishing back here in position number 3 in the Harley-Davidson entry, that's going to be the number 50 of Mark Royce. How are you feeling here tonight, Mark?
I'm doing good.
Yeah, definitely a very solid race for you here tonight. Kind of all over the front of this race for the most part. What do you think might have gone different there for you to be taking home the checkered flag here tonight?
Nothing. I don't think I had anything for Brian, and Brandon was catching me on the long run, so probably nothing. I pretty much third was a gift, I believe.
Fair enough. It seemed like you had a pretty fast car tonight, but maybe not where you were hoping for it to be. Of course, you got 2 more chances here to take home some more wins, heading on over to Rockingham and then Homestead in the next 2 weeks. How are you feeling about those tracks?
I like Homestead. We'll see about Rockingham, but I just want to say sorry to the guy I got into in the dog leg there. I think I was on fresher tires, and I anticipated him going, and he may have lifted. I'm not sure, but we just kind of got contact there, and I hate that.
Yeah, but things happen. It's a part of racing, and I'm sure there's no hard feelings there. Of course, a couple wins to your name, potentially going to be going for 2 more in these final couple of weeks. Do you have any particular thoughts here about this whole championship overall and how you've done so far this season?
Well, I've come in mid-season, so I'm not part of the points thing, and I'm trying not to affect the points in the last few races here. But um, I'm hope to make a full season next year, and we'll see what happens.
Good deal. Well, we'll definitely be looking forward to seeing y'all out there. But of course, before I let you go here tonight, the microphone is all yours, Mr. Royce. Who do you want to thank for making things happen here?
We'll thank everybody in the league, and congrats to Brandon, and great start on the race, Brian. That was a lot of fun side by side there for a little bit, but um, that's it, man. You guys for doing the broadcast and making this all much better later on.
Good deal. Well, thank you for coming out here tonight, and I look forward to seeing you next week over at Rockingham.
All right, thanks.
You heard it here first, race fans. Your top 3 finishers here tonight: Brandon Feeney, Brian Zabelski, and Mark Royce. Your podium finishers here for the Phoenix 125K. But of course, those weren't the only drivers here in tonight's event. So how about we take a look down at our unofficial race results to see how things shook out for the rest of the field. Rolling off back in 4th in the 09 iRacing machine, that's going to be Benjamin Harsty back there, followed by league admin Mr. Jason Gardner in the STP number 93 back there in 5th. Back in 6th, that's going to be the SM Racing Products number 15 of Garrett Streets, followed by the K9P 188 of Joshua Rudolph back in 7th. Back in 8th, going to be the Caesar Robotics 24 of Corey Logan, followed by the Moose Landers number 42 of Michael Sparks back in 9th, with Daniel Sparks in the STP number 4, rounding out the tail end of the field here this evening. For now, that's just about all we've got here from the Phoenix Raceway. Bit of a quicker race here tonight, despite those cautions, but of course, that's a little bit of more or less short track racing for you. Of course, definitely smaller tracks than this on the iRacing.com platform, but looking at the tracks that we have been for here in the 2024 racing season, Phoenix definitely is one of the smaller ones. Next week, though, heading over to the high banks of the Rock for, I believe, the second time the league has actually ever been to that track. So definitely going to be interesting to see how drivers shake things up here next week before we crown our champion for 2024 on December 2nd at the Homestead Miami Speedway. That said, though, thank you all for tuning in here tonight, and I look forward to seeing you all next week. Have a good evening, race fans.